Stop wasting money on throwing away those melamine molds. I'm going to show you how I do it. All right, so I'm here at the storage unit. You can see my breath. I just turned the heater on. I'm gonna go over how you can, I gotta look at the camera. Go over how you can use just some shelving, melamine shelving. Mind you, the thickness of the melamine is actually a little bit thinner than if you were to buy actually a full 4 foot by 8 foot sheet of melamine. But right now it's super expensive and it's hard to get sheets if you can even find them. So I've got some stuff over here. I'm cutting up, get back there. I'm cutting up a bunch of them because I'm building jigs to do 3 different size tables or 3 different size boards. And I'll also, you can make tabletops with them. All you got to do is remove the center dividers. So it's something I just laid out. There's a program called Cordless Optimizer. You can actually put in all your parts and everything. These ones I kind of screwed up a little bit on. So it's going to be hard for me to figure out. I might have to get one more sheet of, or just a shelf so that I could do the sides the long way. I think that'd make a little more sense, but we'll see. But basically this is all I bought right here. I don't know if you can see me. This thing is like zoomed way out maybe. This right here, one sheet. This is, let's see here. It's 3/4 by 23 1/4 by 48. So it's 4 feet long. We'll go over the measurements real quick once I get them laid out. Just some basic simple math. I'm going to cut this to do coasters. So my sides are only going to be about, I don't know, maybe 1.5 inches tall. There's no sense of doing a 3-inch tall. That's normally what I do my sides at. I might do them at 3 inches tall just for the sole fact that if I want to do it to pour like a river tabletop or whatever, I can do that. That's what I'm going to use some of my other ones, as you can see down here. This one's all cut and laid out, and then I got another one over there that's all cut and laid out. Sorry for all the noise. There's all kinds of people going by. But I'm going to lay this out, do the math real quick. Hopefully my storage unit will heat up a little bit. I don't have a garage. I'll turn that up to high. I don't have a garage. I just have a storage unit that doesn't have power. So I actually have a generator sitting outside. I'll show you. Sitting right there. I just use that to power up the inside of the shop. The owner was nice enough to say that I can put lights and outlets and all that in here, just run it off the generator. So that's what I'll do. I got to build a box around the generator so it's a little quieter. It's pretty loud. But let's get started. I'll do the math. Get the backlighting here. I'll do the math and figure out what I want, because keep in mind coasters are 4 inches by 4 inches. Most of them 4 by 4 or 5 by 5. So if you're going to use some scrap lumber like I have right here, that's not scrap, that's cutoffs from, it's black walnut cutoffs from a mill. I got a whole bunch of them for like 50 bucks. So coasters are usually 1/2 inch thick by 4 by 4. So it's 4 by 4 by half. So you're going to want your give yourself a little bit of extra, because when you cut it down the center, you're going to have your blade kerf, which is like 1/8 of an inch. I think mine's 1/8. When you rip it down on the table saw, you're going to lose the kerf. So you got to remember that. And then on each side, I give myself about another, I don't know, 3/16 to 1/4 of an inch. So because I'm going to cut down the sides too. You don't have to do that if you just want to do a blade kerf on each. So you got 3/8 all the way across, and then that'll give you your 4 by 4. But I'd rather cut them a little bit extra, or have them a little bit extra longer so I can cut them and trim them down to size. But so you figure you got across, so you got your 8 3/8, and then that'll be my width. And then my length, you got 4 coasters, so you got 16. But then you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blade kerfs on that. So that's 5/8. So you're going to have to do your 16 plus the 5/8. So that is bare minimum. I build them a little bit bigger, and that's what my base is going to be. Now keep in mind that when I put my sides on, I noticed a lot of people putting their sides on the side of the base. Now that's an issue if you understand physics, that if you put it on the side and you have fluid up next to the side, it can draw straight down. So avoid doing that. Don't put that on. I always build mine with them on top, because the base of the press board is actually absorbent. So let's say you did, for some reason, had a little pinhole leak or something through your caulking, it has to get past another 3/4 of an inch of absorbent material before it can leak out. So it gives you a little bit of a safety net. I always double caulk mine and then go ahead and put wax on them. And we'll go through that whole process and how I do that. I'm sure you don't need to see me cut all this stuff. So what I'll do is I'll lay out the measurements, I'll cut everything, and then we'll discuss on how I cut and why I cut and where I place and how I put it together so you can reuse it. And then on part two, this will be part one. Part two will actually be one where I put it in the mold, or put my material in the mold to make coasters. Like I said, you can make anything with it. You build your molds if you're going to do the same stuff over and over and over again. So this is way cheaper. That sheet right there is $15, and I can reuse it probably at least 10 times, maybe 100 times if I take care of it. There's no reason to buy HDPE, $100, $200 for a mold, and you only get one mold to make one thing, is where I can actually reuse this. The molds that I'm making out of the 4x8 sheet, I can make 9 different size, well, 3 sizes of board. And how do I say that? Each jig will give me 3 identical boards. So I'm making 3 jigs for 3 different sizes of boards, if that makes sense. If it doesn't, just leave me a comment and I'll explain it better. All right, so I'm going to do some math and I'll be back to you. All right, so let's do some basic math here. This is just the basic coaster mold idea. Hopefully you can see this. I got kind of a weird angle here. You're going to have to, let's say my base is, we know we're going to do a double, so you're going to have molds on both sides, or not molds, but you're going to have coasters on both sides, and you're just going to cut down the middle. So you can either put a piece of lumber down the center and then on the sides, or however you decide to do it. But we do know that we need 4 and 4. So you'll need, because you've got a coaster here and a coaster here. So you got 4 inches there, 4 inches there. Don't mind my drawing, I'm not the greatest at it. But we know we got 8 inches across. So we know right off the bat we need 8 inches. Now there's going to be a saw curve down the center of whatever your saw curve is. I'm just going to say you got plus 1/8 of an inch. And then you can go on both sides 1/8 of an inch. Now I leave a little bit extra because for some reason, if the mold was out of square, you built it out of square, which it shouldn't. If you cut everything square, you should be fine. But the curve on the side is just 1/8. I want to give myself a little bit more. So let's say, actually, just for math's sake, we'll do it. So we'll just do 1/8 on each side. So you got 3/8. So you got 8 3/8. And that'll give you your saw curve on this side, saw curve in the middle, and then the saw curve on this side. Okay, so we know the width is going to be 8 3/4 inches. Now, because you're going on top, these are going on top of your base, you're going to have to add 1.5 inches, because each one of these is 3/4 of an inch or thereabouts. It's metric, but I just go with 3/4 of an inch. If you have a little bit extra, that's no big deal. So, I'm burning my leg back there. That was getting really warm. Got my leg right by the heater. So you're going to have to add your 8 3/4. So got 8 3/4. So that's 1.5 inches. So you go 3/4 and 3/4 plus 1.5 inches, and you got 9.5 inches. So that is what your base is going to be. The actual base is going to be 9.5 inches. Okay. You can go a little bit bigger if you want. If you want your mold a little bit wider for saw curve or for trimming off the sides, you can do that. Now we know going this way, we've got 4 coasters. Each one of these is 4. So you got 4 times 4 is 16. So you know you got 16 inches you're going to need that. So we have to add that saw curve again. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you got plus an eighth times 5 would be 5/8. Okay, so you know you got 16 and 5/8. Again, because these are sitting on top, you're going to have to add on the 3/4 of an inch. So let me see if I did this right. Let's see, if it was a 1/2 inch, if it was 4/8, so it'd be, so you got one more. All right, hold on, let me do some math here. I got somebody who just showed up. All right, so I'm figuring out the math. Sorry, I had to get the calculator out. I had a brain fart. But we have 16 and 5/8. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4. So you got 16 here, 5/8 for your saw kerf. Like I said, now I'm going to give myself a little bit extra. But we have to give in this 1.5 inch for these sides as well. Same way we give the 1.5 inch for the sides here. So you got 16 and 5/8 plus 1.5 gives you 18 and 1/8. So this side here on this is going to be 18 and 1/8. So this is minimum size. If you want to give yourself more play on the outside, you know, you can add, let's say I wanted to add a little more. We got 9.5, and I want to add another, let's say just a 1/4 inch, which would be 1/8 more on each side. So I'd add a 1/4 inch to this. So you'd end up with 9 3/4. And that'll give you extra to cut on the sides. So you'll have like an extra, you'll have a 1/4 inch on each side that you can trim off. And then if this one here, you wanted to add a 1/4 inch on that one. So we got 18 and 3/8, I believe. I think that's right. If not, leave me a comment, let me know. So let's say I'm going to cut these at, let's see, we're going to go 18. Hopefully you can see. Sorry, camera's in a bad spot. So I'm going to go 18 and 3/8. And if I'm off a little bit, it doesn't matter. I'm going to trim that by 9 3/4. And then these sides here are going to be your actual dimensions. So you want, this is actually going to be your base. And then when you put these sides up here and you screw these on, you don't really need the measurements for these. What I do is I'll cut these sides to exactly what they need to be once I get this base cut. So I don't measure all this out. What I do is I'll get my base cut, and then I'll cut everything else. I'll just rip these down to 3 inches. So my height on these ones, on the sides and the ends here, I'll just put them at 3 inches in case I want to make, because now I can make a top that's 18 and 3/8 by 9 3/4, which would actually make kind of a cool little side table. But we'll do 3 inches tall. So what I'll do is I'll rip everything down to 3 inches, and then I'll just put them on top of the base, make my marks where I want, or just measure them. So I double check so I don't get them too long or too short. That's the way I do it. And then I'll just take them over to the miter saw, and then I'll cut them down so they're perfectly square. All right, so I'll get that all cut, and then lay out the panel and show you what I'm going to do. And I'll also show you these little things here. I use, hopefully my phone camera isn't full. I use these little threaded inserts. I don't know if you can see them, but they are 1032 wood inserts, and I get the kind with the hex on the end so that I can actually drill the hole, and then I can screw these in with some glue so they don't move. These are 1032. You can use 832, quarter 20s, whatever you want, but 1032 seems to work perfect and holds it in size. But let's get cutting, and then I'll come back and show you how I put it together. All right, everybody, I got it built. I'll show you what I did. I think I'm off just a little bit, but it doesn't really matter. I have it, right now it's about 8 3/16, yeah, on the inside. So with that saw kerf, you're gonna lose 1/8 of an inch. So to give you about a 1/16 on each side, or excuse me, about a 32nd on each side, but about a 1/16, but still, if you cut this right down the center, you're not gonna have any problem getting 2 sets of coasters. And then on the other side, I I'm looking at 16 and 13/16. excuse me, 16 and 7/8. Yeah, 16 and 7/8 on the inside. So you got 7/8. You needed 5/8 for the saw kerf. So it gives you a little bit of play. But basically, I will go over all the parts that I used. I don't know if you can see me or not, but I will go over all the parts that I used, tell you which, what sizes of stuff to use. But here you go. You can make 2 sets of coasters in here. One on this side, one on this side. So you can put a piece of lumber down the center, whether hardwood down the sides, do just the sides and have resin down the middle. It's up to you. But basically I set it up so that it can be screwed apart on the back. You can put self-leveling feet on there if you want. I don't normally do that. I'll just shim it if I have to. I'll just throw a shim under one of the sides. But this is it. Totally reusable mold. Once you seal it and wax it, you can use it over and over and over again. And I still have about 2/3 of the sheet left. So $15 divided by 3, you know, like, I don't know, $4 to build this, plus the hardware, which is probably another $1 maybe. So you're still under $10 to build this, and you can reuse it over and over and over again. So I will go over some of the stuff that I did. I'll take it apart, show you what I did, and then if you have any questions, just pop them down in the comments below. Give it a big thumbs up if you like it. Hit the subscribe button, the bell. Every time I do this, I'll notify you. I'm putting this on my van life channel because I do other stuff too. I have an art channel and a van life channel, so I'll put that on there. And then, hey, if you want to buy me a shot of whiskey, you want to buy me a cup of coffee, I'll put a PayPal link down on the bottom, so you can just pop over there and drop me some money if you want. That's totally up to you. It's not necessary, but I thought I'd show you this. Like I said, this is part 1. Part 2, I'll pour it. You know, I'll seal it up, pour it, and then I'll show you just how easy this comes apart, and you can reuse it over and over again. So there's no sense of buying a $500 4x8 sheet of HDPE, the high density plastic, when you can just build this for like $10, you know, 20 for a bigger one. If you buy a full sheet of 4x8 melamine, it's what, $32, and probably by 3 months from now it'll probably be $85. So I will go ahead and show you how I put this together. Like I said, sorry for the stuff. I got a Tanner school's right across the street, or school's right across the street from me, so oh, that didn't sound good. Anyways, I don't know if I can see this all that well, but as you can see, I've got 1032 screws in there, so we'll pull this apart, and let me change the battery in my drill. Make this a little quicker. Oh, look at that wobble. I guess I should probably buy a new one of these. Now these things will get sharp if you strip them a little bit, so just keep that in mind on whatever you're setting it on. And I'll show you how I did that. Oh. Alright, so we'll just pull these out. And these, I mean, they're 1032 screws. I don't know if you can see those. Yep, 1032 screws. And I will show you the size of them. I use, whoops, 1032 by 1.25 inches. That's the size you need. These machine screws. You could probably recess these if you really wanted to. If you wanted to get a 1032 machine screw with a flat, like with a beveled head, and then you could actually countersink this down in there. You know, that might be something. These are what I had for my electrical business. I had a whole bunch of these, so I thought I'd use these. And then I just put some flat washers on there, number 10 for the 1032. And this will pull right off. Look at that. Put that over there. And then I'll show you on the sides are the same. I'm not going to pull the whole thing apart. It's not really necessary, but these are those inserts. And all I did was drill these. I set my drill bit with a little piece of tape so I didn't go too deep. And being a 1032, it gives you actually quite a bit of beef on both sides. You could probably go to like an 832 if you can find them. But these little inserts are about 50 cents a piece. Flat washers, $1.20. These may be like $3.50. There's 80 of them in there. So if you already have them, that'll work. The size of this drill bit to drill for your 1032 inserts, this drill will change based on what size you use. But this is a 5/16. That's what I use for those inserts. Works perfect. And then I pre-drill my holes through the base and the sides. These holes here, I pre-drill that with, I believe this is a 13/64. Yeah, 13/64, and it works perfect for the size, so they don't wobble inside there. So that's all you have to do. And then you want to make sure, I didn't mark, see how I got a 1 right here? So I know which side is which. And what I'll do is I'll go through and I'll actually mark on the top 1, 1, then I'll put a 2, 2, and 2, 2. So then that way when you put it back together, everything matches right back up. But it's just as simple as when I built this, cut the base first, put one side on, then put your end pieces on, so that way you can get everything nice and tight before you drill. I just clamped them on, got them centered, and then drilled from underneath. But then all you have to do is just flip it back over like that. And one of the things that you don't want to do is you don't want to crank these down. If you crank them down, you're going to start pulling the inserts out of the material, and there's really absolutely no reason to crank them down. So I'll just get them started. And one of the nice things on this is I can actually turn the power down. And I just turn the power down, and that's all you need to tighten it. And then for putting the inserts in, you're going to need a hex key, or an Allen wrench if you want to call it that. This is a number 5, just so you know. That's for the 1032. Other sizes, 832 or any of that, probably will be a little bit smaller. The reason I use these ones with the hex key is because you can actually screw them right down in. They're not a press fit. They're actually threaded in a way so you can actually screw them in. But that is all there is to it. And then I will do another video that shows, you can see this, you can actually see how tight that is. So there's literally no way that that's going to leak, especially if you're cutting it nice and smooth with a table saw. I used my Craig jig to actually rip down the other panel, but yeah, and then it's just put a really small, this is what I do, is I put a very small thin piece in there, just enough to get it with my finger, and I'll squish it in there the best that I can all the way around. I let that dry, and then I put another bead of caulking over top of it, a little bit bigger, and then instead of holding my finger tight to the tip of my finger, I hold it sideways, and I just run it through like that, all the way through. Always, when you're doing your corners, I learned this a long time ago. I was a certified welder, still am, but never stop in a corner, because if it's going to leak, it's going to leak right in the corner. That's 99.9% of the time, that's where you're going to spring a leak. So when you do your caulking, start about an inch back and then smooth it all the way through like that. So I would do the corner first, or both these corners, and then I would start smearing right here into the corner and then back. Or if you're going to stop, start here, go all the way around, come back up, and stop up here. Don't stop in the corner. That's where your leaks are going to be. There's no sense of taping this on the outside. If your cuts are smooth and everything's tight, it's not going to leak out of here. The other thing is that this is where the physics comes into play. These are on top, okay? So if I have a resin leak that starts to leak through here, leak through a pinhole or whatever in my caulking for some weird reason, it has to go 3/4 of an inch to get out to the outside to be pulled down by gravity. If you're putting these on the outside, you literally only have this little tiny edge that it can leak through, and then it's going to leak down, and this is smooth, the melamine smooth, so it's not going to stick to that. It's going to leak right through. That's why I put them on top. I don't see any need, never had an issue, don't see a need to put them, you know, caulk all this, caulk all that. Maybe if you're doing a really large pour and you really, you know, you're spending thousands of dollars on resin, then caulk the crap out of it and tape it and whatever else you got to do. But for smaller stuff, charcuterie boards, cutting boards, coasters, any of that stuff, small mold like this, that's overkill. You don't need to put Tyvek tape all over it. I've done a whole bunch of these. Like I said, I'm building some bigger molds now. I've done a whole bunch of these that you literally are not, it's not going to leak. If you put that little teeny bead in first, you know, you can get a, I saw somebody use a, I think it's called a piping tool. They use it for like clay or for doing decorations for cakes, and it like squishes it right in there. You know, that's great. I'm not going to spend the money. I just put my fingertip in there and squish it down in there. And like I said, when you do your second pass, don't stop in the corner. Just go around the corner, and you should never have a problem. Disclaimer, if you leak stuff, you didn't do it right, it's not my fault. I'm just showing you how I do it. And that's it. If it does start to leak underneath, you'll see it when you take these off. When we go to part 2, I'll show you. If it does leak any, this will actually start to absorb the resin, and it'll actually cure right while it's going through here. So then it literally seals itself, which I think is a great idea. I've tried Tyvek tape and all that, and I don't like throwing this stuff away. Lumber's expensive. And you know, if I was doing a $5,000 table or something, I could understand it. Of just, you know, destroying it and throwing it away, that's understandable. But on smaller stuff, if you can reuse it, there's absolutely no reason not to reuse it. So hopefully that helps. Like I said, give me a big thumbs up and hit subscribe. And I'll start doing more of these. If you want to see me build something else, you want to see me build a different type of mold, yeah, just let me know. The great thing about this right here, I don't know if you can see the mold. The great thing about this is I can do 2 sets of coasters, or I can do a charcuterie board or a small cutting board. You know, you do these weird designs, you make it square, and then you cut out some cool little handle, something like that. You can use that same mold. So now you can make multiple things with the one mold. You know, like I said, I got 2/3 of a sheet left, so I could have made like a double one of these, made it longer, and then just had this as a spacer right in the middle, and then had another section. Or I could have done it, you know, put this as a divider and then had another section there, and I could have poured 2 at once. So all that pretty much under 20 bucks. All right, we will see you on the next video.